The day her father's shoes stopped resting beside the door, the house learned the meaning of fear. Not the loud fear that screams and breaks things, but the quiet fear that sits patiently in corners, listening to every sound, counting every breath, and waiting for hope to return. At 17, Aisha stood in that silence, holding her mother's trembling hands, understanding without anyone saying it that childhood had ended forever. Her father had not been sick for long. He was strong, dependable, the kind of man who believed that dignity mattered more than comfort. Every morning, he left for work with the same promise, spoken softly but confidently: I will be back before sunset. That promise had shaped their lives. It meant dinner together. It meant stories at night. It meant safety. On that day, however, the sun set quietly, and the promise did not return with it. That evening, a neighbor knocked on the door. His eyes were lowered, his voice uncertain. Accidents do not ask permission before entering homes. They do not explain themselves or apologize. They simply arrive, shatter lives, and disappear, leaving behind broken routines and unanswered questions. By nightfall, the house was filled with crying women, murmured prayers, and frightened children clinging to their mother. Aisha stood among them like a shadow, watching everything, feeling everything, yet unable to cry. Not because she did not feel pain, but because someone had to remain standing. Her mother's grief was heavy and silent. She stopped speaking, stopped eating properly, stopped looking outside. Her younger brothers kept asking the same question every morning: when will Abba come back? Her little sister sat near the door each evening, convinced that he was only late. Bills lay unopened on the table. The landlord's words echoed in Aisha's mind. School fees were due. The ration bag was almost empty. The future arrived all at once, demanding answers. The next morning, the house woke up without a father for the first time. The air felt unfamiliar. Aisha tied her dupatta tightly, looked once at her sleeping siblings, and stepped outside alone. She did not know where she was going. She only knew that staying still would destroy her. The streets were loud and careless. People laughed, argued, bargained, lived. The world had not paused for her loss. That realization hurt more than anything else. She returned home with nothing in her hands, but something strong in her heart. That night, while everyone slept, Aisha sat under a dim bulb and wrote a list: rent, food, medicine for her mother, school expenses, electricity. There was no space for dreams on that paper. She folded it carefully and placed it where her father once kept his wallet, as if asking him silently for strength. The days that followed reshaped her completely. She went door to door asking for work, ignoring looks that judged her worth, swallowing words that burned her throat. Some people turned her away politely. Others did not bother to hide their cruelty. She cleaned houses, washed dishes, stitched clothes, and worked late into the night. Her hands became rough. Her sleep became shallow. Her voice became firm. Inside the house, she became two people. In front of her siblings, she was calm, smiling, unbreakable. At night, when everyone slept, she allowed herself a few quiet tears before wiping her face and standing up again. Her mother watched her silently, pride and guilt fighting in her eyes. Once, she tried to stop her. "You are just a child," she whispered. Aisha smiled gently. "Abba raised me to stand tall," she replied. "This is how I honor him." School slowly faded from her life. Her books gathered dust. Friends stopped calling. Invitations disappeared. Life narrowed into responsibility. When her brothers fought, she settled it. When her sister cried, she held her. When the landlord demanded rent, she negotiated calmly. When relatives suggested early marriage, she refused politely but firmly. She had seen too many girls handed away like burdens. She would not become one. There were days when exhaustion defeated her body, days when she counted coins again and again and still fell short, days when hunger pretended to be patience. Once, after working 16 hours, she collapsed on the kitchen floor. When she woke, her siblings were crying, terrified of losing her, too. That night, Aisha understood something frightening. If she fell, everything would fall with her. From that moment on, fear became her fuel. Years passed quietly. Her brothers grew taller and stronger. Her sister learned to braid her hair just like Aisha did. Her mother slowly returned to life, helping where she could. The house no longer felt like it was drowning, but it was still struggling to breathe. Aisha aged faster than time intended. Worry replaced softness on her face. Yet something else grew: respect. Neighbors stopped calling her that poor orphan girl. Shopkeepers trusted her. Women asked for her advice. Men spoke to her carefully. She never demanded authority. She earned it through consistency, honesty, and sacrifice. One evening, her youngest brother came home holding a school paper, his eyes shining. "I got first position," he said. Aisha read it slowly, her hands trembling. Pride filled her chest until it hurt. In that moment, every sacrifice felt lighter. Strength, however, has a price. At night, when the house slept, Aisha wondered who she was beyond survival. She had forgotten what she liked, what she wanted. Love felt like a language she once knew, but could no longer speak. Sometimes she imagined her father sitting beside her. "I am tired, Abba," she whispered into the darkness, "but I will not stop." Years later, when her brother received a scholarship, the house filled with laughter and tears. He hugged Aisha tightly. "This is because of you," he said. She shook her head. "This is because you worked hard," she replied, just like her father once did. Eventually, her siblings stood on their own feet. The weight she had carried for so long began to lift slowly, gently, like dawn after a long night. For the first time in years, Aisha allowed herself to rest. She did not know how to dream yet, but she was learning. One afternoon, while cleaning an old cupboard, she found her father's shoes. Dusty, worn, familiar. She held them to her chest and cried openly, freely, for the first time since his death, not from pain alone, but from release. She had kept the house standing. Aisha never called herself a hero. She never told her story loudly. But in that small home, every wall remembered her strength. Every corner knew her footsteps. She had not replaced her father. She had become something just as powerful, a daughter who carried a family on her shoulders and never let it fall. And sometimes that is the bravest kind of love there is. Stories like this are not only meant to touch your heart, they are also a powerful way to learn English naturally. When you listen to emotional stories, your mind understands words, sentences, and expressions without pressure. This is how English can be learned faster and more easily. If you want to improve your English listening, vocabulary, and fluency through real life stories, subscribe to this channel, like the video, and share it with others. Keep learning English, one story at a time.